Live from Waterford and Dungarvan, this is Waterford at 1 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Liz Reddy. Today's top stories. Waterford councillors say next Thursday's budget meeting could go down to the wire. The 8 men found on a cargo ship from France to Waterford on Wednesday afternoon have been deported. Gardaí and Waterford say taking very small amounts of drugs will put you over the limit if you're driving. And in sport, the FAI has announced its president will step down in January. A Waterford senator has called on all councillors to do what's best for the people who elected them. It comes as Waterford's council request for additional government funding to help pass a budget was refused. The local authority is facing a €1.3 million deficit despite receiving an extra €2 million in recent weeks. The shortfall is due to the revaluation of Irish water rates. Fine Gael's Paddy Coffey was speaking during a motion about local government funding.
There will always be challenges in trying to provide greater public services at a local level. The demand is rising all the time, but that is where the balance has to be struck. That is why we elect councillors, to strike that balance, to take the authority of the mandate that they have to pass a budget and not hand it over or give the opportunity of handing over their responsibility to the people that elected them, to any bureaucrats or commissioners. That's something I would hate to see happening.
He issued a request to councillors.
I would especially call on all councillors around this country to take up the challenge, do what's best for the people that elected them, which I know they will, and pass the budget. That's their primary function.
Waterford councillors say next Thursday's budget meeting could go down to the wire. Fianna Fáil's Eddie Mulligan would prefer if the budget meeting was taking place today.
Because we have a plenary meeting that day, and I have a lot of issues I want to bring up. But looking at it now, I'd say the plenary meeting is going to have to be deferred. I firmly believe we can pass a budget, having reviewed it myself. I've presented my findings to my colleagues in Fianna Fáil who are reviewing that at the moment, and I presume the other parties are doing the same and the other collaborations.
Independent councillor Joe Kelly's expecting a long night.
We've asked him for money. I have proposed to the Department of Finance, basically saying the doors are closed, and we now face a very difficult budget meeting on the Thursday because it's going to go right down to the wire. You could see a budget happening at 5 to 12, 5 to midnight. It's going to be a long day and night, I think.
A rise in commercial rates is one of the measures proposed by Council CEO Michael Walsh. However, a Waterford businessman says the city centre rates are becoming untenable. Ronan Mulligan from the Mulligan's pharmacy chain says the business environment is extremely challenging.
There's so much competition online. They don't pay rates. We depend on people and we depend on the environment we work in. When those costs get out of control, we struggle, especially city centre. The costs are growing, and it's imperative that council recognise if they see us as an easy touch. Obviously we have to pay them if they're levied, but they're only going to further break business if they continue to say this is the golden ticket.
The 8 men found on a cargo ship from France to Waterford on Wednesday afternoon have been deported. The decision was reached following a Garda investigation into their immigration status. The men were refused leave to land in the jurisdiction and were deported under escort on a ferry destined for Cherbourg, which left from Rosslare at 8:30 last night. Sarah Jane Tobin reports.
At around 4 p.m. on Wednesday afternoon, the crew on board the cargo ship travelling from France to Bellevue Port in Waterford discovered the 8 migrants hiding in the bulk hold of the vessel. All 8 men were in good health and are believed to be from Albania. Upon arrival at the port, 3 of the men managed to get off the boat and made an attempt to get away, but they were stopped by security staff. All 8 were then arrested by Gardaí under immigration legislation and taken for questioning. It had been expected that they would seek asylum in Ireland. However, following an investigation into their immigration status, the men were deported back to Cherbourg in France last night under Garda supervision.
The EU Trade Commissioner has appealed to farmers to enter back into discussions at the Beef Market Task Force. Phil Hogan's comments come as they continue their campaign for an increase in the price of beef with a protest in Cork. About 50 farmers are blocking lorries at Lidl Distribution Centre in Charleville, and it follows a similar protest in Kildare yesterday. Joe Healy, president of the Irish Farmers Association, says the blockades will continue until there's a significant price increase. Commissioner Hogan wants communication rather than confrontation.
I allocated up to €100 million for the beef sector, 50 million coming from Europe, because we recognised that there was a serious problem of incomes in relation to our beef farmers over and above any other sector in agriculture. There was a deal on the table, there was discussions, now we have to implement it, and that's why I think it's better to have cooperation and dialogue rather than confrontation.
Gardaí in Waterford say taking very small amounts of drugs will put you over the limit if you're driving. They're warning motorists that as well as alcohol, they'll be testing for drugs at their increased checkpoints over the festive period. Garda Inspector Niall Daly says the oral fluid preliminary drug test, which can be conducted at the roadside or in a Garda station, offers very quick detection.
We're into nanograms per 100 millilitres of blood, which is a tiny amount. Based on international tests, they have calculated what causes impairment based on that concentration of drugs in a person's system. At the roadside, we will get a reading. Once they're brought back to the station and a blood sample taken, we'll get a very, very accurate reading back from the Medical Bureau of Road Safety. And we've found people who've exceeded the limits to 20 times the actual limit.
Tenants and landlords could in future sign a green lease to encourage more environmentally friendly tenancies. The government's looking at a number of options to encourage landlords to retrofit properties to make them more energy efficient. Property owners could be forced to compensate tenants for higher heating bills if they're unable or unwilling to upgrade the energy rating. Environment Minister Richard Bruton says schemes to improve standards in accommodation are not being taken up in the numbers he'd like.
And they're well known, they're well publicised what you can get for the different elements of the improvement. But landlords are not just getting involved. So I think it is designing a nudge. The green lease concept is the idea where there is written into the lease a form where essentially both landlord and tenant cooperate under some agreed rules to deliver this change.
The Friday free from 5 parking in the main car parks in Waterford City will be in operation today and has been extended to include Friday the 20th of December. It's a collaboration between Waterford Council and the Port of Waterford. All Waterford Council owned and managed car parking spaces are free of charge on Sundays also. Brian Tynan from Whelan's Pharmacy says the cost of parking in Waterford is reasonable.
There definitely would be a mindset out there that the parking's expensive and people can't get in, so it actually kind of shuts the door in terms of the negativity that's constantly being generated towards kind of access to the city and the kind of parking rates that will be available in the city. Like, as we know, the parking is actually quite reasonable if you shop around and actually do your parking payments sensibly. So the offer from the council is actually great, and that it actually, on the port, is great. That it gives people the opportunity to get in and do a good kind of 3 hours shopping for nothing, and particularly at the run into Christmas as well.
The lights will be switched on at the Enchanted Garden Winter Light Festival in the Japanese Gardens in Tramore this evening. The light show will be open from Wednesday to Sunday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. until the 5th of January. The Lafcadia Hearn Gardens recently added to their offering with a new audio guide and authentic tea room. Agnes Aylward from the Tramore Development Trust says the Winter Light Festival is one of their busiest times.
The Christmas lights are the big thing. In December, we will have probably more visitors than in July or August, or maybe than in the two combined, because people love the Christmas light experience. And it should be a little bit extra special this year now that we have some new elements to draw into it.
WLR Sport.
And a very good afternoon, I'm Gavin. Whelan. First to soccer, and the President of the Football Association of Ireland, Donald Conway, is to step down from his role. It comes as the FAI released their accounts figures for 2018 at a press conference which has just started. Conway will depart the position at an FAI EGM on January 25th, 2020. Any person who is a serving member of the FAI Council and who has been a member of the Council for 2 years is eligible to replace him. Chelsea will be able to sign players once again in January. Their 2-window transfer ban has been halved after an appeal to the Court of Arbitration for Sport. The 4 Irish rugby provinces have revealed their teams for this weekend's Heineken Champions Cup action. Huge game for Munster tomorrow night, who will play a weakened Saracens at Thomond Park. Tadhg Byrne starts at blindside flanker for the southern provinces, with 14 changes in all for Johan van Grand's side. Waterford's Jack O'Donoghue is named among the replacements. Soccer, reverting to soccer, and Manchester United boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has taken a bit of a dig at their rivals ahead of the Manchester derby. They face champion City at the Etihad tomorrow evening in the Premier League. Paul Pogba will miss the game for United, having not recovered from his ankle problem. Solskjaer says the game didn't used to have such importance.
At least we play every year now. It took many years before I played the Manchester derby myself. It's changed in a way, of course. Man City are a better team now than when I was playing.
Gaelic Games and St Mary's and Russell Rovers will bid for Munster Club Junior Hurling Championship glory on Sunday afternoon. The Tornina outfit take on a fancied Cork side in the provincial decider, but will enter the game full of confidence following excellent victories over Castletown, Ballygran of Limerick and Carrickdavins en route to Sunday's provincial final. PGA golfer Seamus Power is wishing St Mary's the best of luck on Sunday. His brothers Jack and Willie are part of the St Mary's panel, and Seamus told WLR Sport he's been following their progress right throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just like talking to Jack and Willie throughout, they've been very excited all year, and they've played well. They've had some tough matches there in the last few weeks, but I'd say they're looking forward to this. Training has been going well. They've been up to Mallow for a look, and now I'd say almost the whole parish will be up there on Sunday, so they'll have a nice crowd cheering them on, and I said hopefully they take it home.
And throw in for that one is at 1 o'clock. Tomas McCarthy will have updates here on WLR. Further build up with Tomas on this evening's show. Lorna Porca GA show. Brendan Tobin, the St Mary's chairman, will be live in studio. We'll have also further build up on our On the Ball show tomorrow afternoon. Staying with news of Gaelic Games, and Patricia Welch from Colligan was elected as the first female chairperson of the Western Board at last night's convention in Stradbally. She says that our passion for Waterford GA runs in the family.
I'm very proud Colligan woman tonight, and I'd like to thank my club for nominating me for the position. And I suppose there is a huge tradition within my family on both sides in relation to administration on the boards, namely my mum, who basically was one of the first county board reps back in the late 70s, early 80s. Followed on, I suppose, by my uncle Paddy Welch, previous chairperson of the Western Board, and my granduncle Dick Good, who was county secretary for many years.
Ballygunner, Ballysaggart, Rathgormack and St Mary's are on the shortlist for the Waterford GA Club of the Year. The full list of nominees for the 2019 awards will be revealed exclusively on our Lorna Porca GA show this evening. That's from 6:10 here on WLR. Finally, for now, to news of racing, where today's action comes from Dundalk. There's an eight race flat card off at the Loud track. First race off there at 5:15. That's the latest on WLR. Next bulletin, 2